Hello everyone, I am so excited that you are here. I have been waiting for 6 p.m. Central Standard Time to tune in because today is day one of our masterclass, our Emerging Mothers Evolution Masterclass. And I am so excited about it because I am going to, and I'll say what I say on TikTok because my daughters have me on TikTok now. I am going to toss some tips and drop some gems. So I'm so very excited that you're here on Instagram and also on Facebook as well in our group. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And listen, if you have yet to grab the workbook, which we'll need throughout the next 8 days, this is a 9-day Emerging Mothers Masterclass. And there's a workbook guide that you'll want to have because of course we'll be filling in information. I want you to capture all of these gems I'll be dropping. So again, I'm so excited you're here. Welcome to Emerging Mothers Evolution Masterclass. And you know what? Some of you may be saying to yourself, you know, why is she saying emerging mothers? What exactly does that mean? And what that means is, emerging means something or someone who's prominent, or something or someone who is a parent, who is about to change, who is already changing. It means moving out, moving away. And when I say moving out and moving away, I'm talking specifically about our thinking. You know, here it is, we've raised these children, they become teens, and then of course that's before they become young adults. And so usually as we're raising them, there's a certain type of mindset we have. And as we evolve in this mindset, as we emerge in this mindset, then guess what we're doing? We're raising our thought process to a whole nother level. And when we're raising our thought process to a whole nother level, when our children go to teens and then our teens go to young adults, then guess what we're doing? We're emerging. And guess what? That's my vision. That's my focus. That's my mission for Lloyd Learning Labs, is that we will be emerging month after month, quarter after quarter, and then guess what? Year after year. So I'm so excited about it, and I'm so excited that you're here so that we're able to just connect. And this is really an informal, if you will, one-on-one or a group to one, so you can feel free to ask questions, feel free to drop information in the chat, and I will respond as I see your talking points or as I see your questions there. And for some reason, you know, I'm sure the chat will come up here in just a bit on my Facebook page. Oh, there it is. Okay, fantastic. It's there. So if there are any comments being made, or if there's any, of course, questions being asked, and guess what? I'll be able to snatch those up. So thank you so much for being here. Listen, I'm Dr. Michelle Lloyd, and just to tell you a little bit about myself on a professional level, my background for 25 or so years has been in the investment industry. I've been a training officer, of course, training newly hired investment advisors, of course, for a Fortune 500 company here in Houston, Texas. And I traveled, of course, within the city of Texas, within the state of Texas, of course, the city of Tampa, and then also back and forth to and from New York, training newly hired investment advisors. You know, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, inflation, taxation, all of those different types of topics as they were onboarding, coming on board within the company. And then after that, of course, I was a compliance officer, overseeing the compliance-related responsibilities of about 53 insurance and investment reps. And when, of course, it was there that I decided that I was jumping back into school and doing a deep dive, of course. And when I was at as a compliance officer in the investment industry, I saw an insurmountable level of stress as it pertains to the agents, and with whether it was with their direct reports or their sales assistants or their colleagues within the office. Of course, I saw stress, and so what I told myself is that I'm going to do a deep dive into what this stress is all about, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a workshop, if you will, and I'm going to take it back to the industry, and then I'm going to teach them how to manage that stress and how to handle that anxiety. But it's almost as though the Holy Spirit arrested me, and of course geared me towards not going back into the industry, but of course connecting with mothers such as you here on Instagram, and then also on Facebook, and helping you to understand and manage and prepare you prior to your teen's transition out of the home, and helping to help you to manage stress and anxiety and all of those different types of things that come along with that transition that occurs. So again, on a personal note, of course, I'm married to my high school sweetheart. We went to different high schools, but nonetheless, we met when we were in high school. And then I have 3 amazing daughters. One graduated from college, of course, last month. The next one graduates in December. My oldest one, of course, is now a degreed engineer. She earned that engineering degree. And then my second daughter, of course, she's drifting into the medical field as she graduates in December. And then, of course, we have a 13-year-old at the home as well. And so she is well on her way and will be going to 9th grade. And then, of course, she will be playing a sport, and she will be all over her studies, and I'm super duper excited about her success and her progress as well. So in a nutshell, that's a little bit about me. I want to jump right in, and if you have yet to grab your personalized guide, your workbook, if you will search Emerging Mothers on Facebook and then go in there so we can accept you, and then there's a link at the very top that has the workbook. It has the guide, of course, and you're able to print that out so that we can fill in. And again, as I say on TikTok, listen, I want to toss some tips and then drop some gems to you on Instagram, and then also to you, of course, on Facebook as well. So if you will, please, moms, go onto the Facebook page and then grab that book. Okay, it's interesting because as we move forward, of course, throughout this masterclass for all 9 days, today and then the following 8 days, we're going to be focusing on 3 pillars, and those pillars include revealing teen readiness, and then secondly, an emotional management plan, and then thirdly, relationship revival between, of course, you and your teens. And as it pertains to revealing teen readiness, we'll be focusing on embracing self-awareness and making sure that, of course, us and our teens know where we are. It's all about knowing where you are so that you can use that as a launching pad to then, of course, catapult to where you want to be. Not only in your relationships, but most especially as it pertains to yourself and your team as well. And then also making sure that you're strengthening those connections. And of course, embracing the purpose of motherhood. All of that will be entailed in that particular pillar. And then learning your parenting love language as well. I tell my daughters that, listen, my love language is finish or done. And they have to remind me that's not a love language at all. But I keep thinking that that's mine, of course, because I'm all about that finish line, and I'm all about, whatever it is needing to be done, what's that due date? Exactly when will it be done? And then, of course, the emotional management plan, that has to do with reshaping your parenting process. And listen, there's never a moment where we ought to not be evolving and growing and soaring in our roles. Just this past weekend, it came to me that, there are some areas that I may even need to look at myself and do a self-awareness so that, guess what, I can even grow in that area and I can emerge in that area as well. So there always should be a time where we're emerging and reshaping, of course. Then also building our parent posse. That's what I want to talk about in this Emerging Mothers Evolution Masterclass. How do we go about doing that? Because guess what? When those teens transition out of the home, we want to have our support system, and then also creating a transition plan. That's important too for when that transition takes place. Promoting new bonding habits and perspectives, managing our emotions, that's critical, because at any given time you may need to check your emotions. I may need to check my emotions, and so that's critical. So we're going to talk about that. So listen, as I'm dropping tips and dropping gems and tossing tips to you, of course I am talking to myself as well. So that is so very important. So listen, what I want to do now is I want to talk about what we are going to be focusing on. Of course, and even if your teen has already transitioned out of the home, guess what? That's A-okay. Some of these tips can be utilized right now, because some of us, we have teens, we have young adults, and some of this can be captured even here and now. So, of course, today we're talking about, is my teen ready? And these are going to be 5 indicators that your teen is not ready for adulting. So we're going to capture some points there, and then talk about, and I wish I can just drop all of the gems today, but of course we have about 30 minutes in this session, so I'll try to give you, of course, what I can. Then guess what? Day 2 on tomorrow, we're going to be talking about those mindset shifts to make before your teen transitions out of the home. That will be important. And guess what, moms? It could be a mindset shift for you, me. It could be a mindset shift for my teen. But I want you to receive it as I'm giving it. It's a mindset shift that will need to be made. And then guess what? That'll be day 2 on tomorrow. Day 3 will be the secrets to encouraging your teens to make good social choices. That will be important. And then day 9 will be the no-nos to parenting from a distance. Sometimes, guess what? We think that we're doing our very best and remaining connected with our teen as they're on the college campus. Guess what? We may be doing something that totally is throwing our teen off, and they're saying, I want to spend less time with my parent. I want to avoid connecting with them, because of course we're doing something. We may think we're doing something to help them out and to support them, but guess what? They may not need our help, or they may not need our support. And so we want to be cognizant of those tips in particular. So we'll talk about that, of course, on day 4. On day 5 will be ways to strengthen the bond, ways to strengthen those bonds after they've transitioned out of home. We definitely want to talk about that. And then guess what? Oh my goodness, I am super excited. This weekend, you're going to hear from one of my teens, and she's going to give some tips now that she has wrapped up and ended her college journey, her college experience. She says she's not going back, and you know what? I believe her, but you know what? Who knows what God has for her? The Holy Spirit. There could be a quickening in her spirit, and it may lead her back in the future. But guess what? If not, that's A-okay. But you'll hear from her, and I'm super excited because, listen, you're talking about tossing some tips. She has all types of tips that we as mothers will want to embrace, and that could be helpful. And guess what? You'll even be able to ask her some questions as well, and she'll be able to answer those and give you really a snapshot view of what it's like on the college campus, and that'll help you to prepare your teen as well. So that'll be super exciting. You know what? There are sometimes some concerns that mothers have when their teens transition out of the home. You know what? They may ask themselves, now that my teen is gone, who am I now? Here it is, I've raised these teens all of these years, and now they're gone. I tied myself to these teens. It's kind of like when our hubbies, or, when men tie themselves to their profession. And when that profession is no longer, or if they've retired, that was their identity. Sometimes, guess what? That's what some mothers do. We tie our identity to our teens. And when they leave, it's like, oh my goodness, where am I? who am I and what am I going to do next? Guess what? One day we're going to talk about that, and that's going to be powerful. And then guess what? Some of you may only have one teen and they're transitioning out, or it could be that you may have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. You know, I think we have a mother who's joined, and of course she's mentioned to me, I have five children. It could be her 5th child, and this last child is transitioning out. And guess what? At that point, we've achieved or we've reached a stage that some call empty nesting. And, you know, whereas the teen has transitioned out, they may have landed a job, they are, of course, on their own, making their own dollars, and they are, you know, I hesitate to say independent, I like to say interdependent, because of course they do call home, they do need help. You know, it could be with a recipe, it could be with, you know, how do I, you know, complete this repair. It can be a number of different things they call home. So there's still there's still a way to pour into your teen or your young adult and help them along the way. So, you know, are they totally independent? I think not, because they still call and they still ask questions and they still need help. They still need, you know, their love, all of those different types of things. You know, I've noticed that still is needed, and so we want to make sure that we're there to help them out and to love up on them and to embrace them when they, you know, have a question about, you know, or need advice or anything along those lines. So of course we want to make sure that we're there for them. So, you know, some people call it that empty nesting stage. You know what? And there's another name that I use for that phase. And when we roll around to day 8, I'm going to share it. And then next, day 9 is going to be letting go. It's going to be pursuing, you know, that patience that's needed when we let go. You know, it's releasing with respect is what I call it. And so we want to make sure that we, of course, talk about that. And then, you know what? I am here for any questions or comments or anything along those lines. So just know that, of course, I see you. All right, so listen, I want to jump right in, right here, right now, before, you know, it's just totally, the evening is gone, because there's so much information that I'd like to share. So if I jump in and I am focused on the 5, of course, indicators that your teen is not ready for adulting, I want to start with the very first one. And if you have your workbook and you know that the front page looks like this, okay, for day 1, of course. If not, if you have yet to grab your workbook, you will want to join Emerging Mothers, of course, the private Facebook page, and so you'll want to get your workbook there. But on this very first page, when we talk about the 5 indicators that your teen is not ready for adulting, you know, it says here on that page, teens who don't learn, of course, first and foremost, time management skills are at risk of becoming lifelong, and in that blank, I want you to write procrastinators, because that's what happens. You know, if we are unable to be on time, when I tell my daughters, listen, when you're early, you're on time. When you're on time, you're late. And listen, when you're late, you're left out. All types of conversations happen at the very begin. And that's where you want to be. You want to be at that place at the very, very beginning to make sure that you are there and you're able to master or gather a lot of what's being talked about. And so, you know, I want to also mention, as it pertains to time management and this whole making sure that we're timely, and we're making sure that we are where we should be when we should be there. We want to first and foremost, we want to make sure that we have encouraged our sons and our daughters, our teens, to use their calendar updates. First of all, make sure that we have a calendar. Whether it's Outlook, whether it's Google, whatever it is, make sure that we've encouraged that for our teens, so that they have that, because guess what? When they reach the college campus, they will definitely need that. to create their schedule. Some people use what's called block calendaring. And so they have it Monday through Sunday, of course, and then they have different times of what needs to happen on each particular day. And there are even some block, if you were to Google, of course, the block calendaring, then you could even print one out, and it helps you to be clear about what those goals are throughout the week, especially if they're repeated tasks. And then it'll help you also to jot down some of your habits as well. Also on a block calendaring, it helps you to identify, of course, those very, very important tasks. You can put that like on the top right, and so that's a constant reminder, making sure that that is there. And then making sure that we're encouraging our sons and our daughters to allow there to be some free space when we're teaching them time management skills. But having this visual is absolutely critical, because guess what? That alleviates your having to nag ongoing. And then also, guess what? Even when I'm working with my team, we're using like Trello. And Trello helps me not to even have to jingle them up. It helps me not even to place reminders for them, but they're able to go on Trello. That's another piece as well, whereas I'm able to go in there and understand, whether or not some projects have been completed. And so, and the team is pretty good about completing projects. So do I have to go in there often? I know it's getting done because I can look on social media and identify what's, or the email blast or what have you. I'm able to go in there and identify if that task has been completed. And so those time management skills are critically important. And then guess what? Along those same lines, once they have established their routine, despite whatever time management system they're using, and given the fact that you're not having to nag or place reminders or share reminders or all of that, once they've created that routine, guess what? They can respect that routine. It's all about respecting that routine. If they have, of course, created their schedule, created that routine, and then they walk away from it, and there's absolutely no respect, they've ignored it, then right then and there, we know that it's useless at that point. And so, but nonetheless, we want to make sure that they're using that. It's critically important. And you know what? There are all types of tracking systems. Not only the Trello, not only the Outlook, not only, of course, the Google Calendar, but there are all types of apps as well that can be used as time management systems. Listen, I'm going on to number 2 before we run out of time. Guess what? The budget. That budget is critically important. And I want to share some apps with you, and this is number 2, of what can be engaged in reference to a budget, because you'll want to track that spending. You know what? We used to use ledgers back in the day. And I loved using a ledger. It worked for me. But today we have like a Prosper Daily. Of course, that is can help teens track their budget. We also have a Good Budget. That's an app as well, where they can track their budget there to identify what's coming in and then also what's going out, because that visual is needed as well to understand, listen, what's left at the end of the week, what's left at the end of 2 weeks, what's left at the end of the month that I have to work with. So guess what? I can tithe, number 1, tithing. Number 2, I can, of course, save. That's critically important. And then after that, I can spend. I will know what I have left for my spending. That's important as well. So, and then an app for that is Mint, M-I-N-T. A number of students, a number of teens, they really, really like that. And then guess what? My daughter and myself will be participating in Financial Peace University, which is hosted and facilitated by either Dave Ramsey or his daughter. That's important as well. And even in that, I can't wait to get to the investment piece, because I am wanting to, of course, reiterate and share as a part of this program what that whole investment piece is. That's my area of expertise and my background. Okay, so that is very, very important to track that. So have a budget, time management, having a budget, and then also if you're son or your daughter they're unable to embrace the safety concept while they're on campus, that's very, very important. And safety comes in a number of different vessels, if you will. Whether I'm referring to safety and knowing where to go. I mean, you may go somewhere over here, if you have a cough or a cold or COVID or something like that. But guess what? You may go to a totally different location if you've broken a bone, or if you need stitches, or if there's something even more serious than that has happened. You'll want to be familiar with that college campus and know where those locations are. That's very, very important. Or when I refer to campus safety, it could be knowing where all of the safety buttons are. I know on campus sometimes they have a button that you can push if you feel unsafe, maybe going from the library back to the dorm, or there's a telephone number you can call, or an emergency text that can be sent if you need campus police to come get you. There are a number of different things that need to be known, just as part of our basic knowledge when we're on a college campus. Those are the things that we'll want to know. That will be important. And then guess what? It's also important that when you are, of course, visiting college campuses, having conversation with security, just so that you're well aware of the stats as it pertains to the crimes that are happening in that city and on that college campus, and making sure that you're clear about the different trends that are occurring. We just have witnessed this whole diversity and inclusivity on the college campuses, and how is that handled? And we just saw protests, and we need to know what are the strategies of the police, and how are they maintaining the college campus to make sure that there's safety involved. There are so many levels of safety. Of course, you'll want to make sure if they're unaware of that, then I'm not sure if they're ready for adulting, especially on the college campus. That's critically important, because even when they're out of college and they're looking for an apartment, just knowing how to keep themselves safe and finding an apartment, finding a condo, finding a house, and then on what side of town is most safe. And then just different safety measures. It's so important that they'll want to know that prior to adulting. Listen, number 4, emotional and psychological skills. That's so important. Everything from knowing how to interact with people, that's important, and I find it so interesting, because when teens wake up in the morning, they're liable to experience a number of emotions, like and let's not even talk about 8 hours throughout the day, but a number of emotions just like within an hour span, 30 minutes, 2 hours, 3 hours. They wake up, they leave the house, something can happen between their home and the high school, when they're on the college campus, from their dorm room to their first class. There's an interaction maybe between them and, another college student that could be unpleasant. Or, if they're dating, between them and someone there's dating, there could be an interaction that's unpleasant that takes place. They get to the college campus, then the teacher, who knows what mood the teacher is in, and then there could be a backlash there. Or, that could take them down to the dumps. Then they come up because they find out they got maybe 97% on their test that they just took a couple of days ago. So that can send them from, they're leaving their dorm, down in the dumps, then up, because they did well on a test, and then, they leave class, they may see some friends, have a conversation with them, the friends are inviting them to lunch, and then, of course, that can level out their emotions. Then, something can take them back down, something can take their emotions back up. So knowing, this is a tip, knowing, just as a parent, how to help those emotions remain level while our teens are on a college campus, and being there for them and just embracing whatever it is they're going through and helping them to balance. My daughters are in a sorority. Things may happen that brings their emotions up. They could be getting together maybe for a gathering or a party that weekend that they're excited about, or something may have happened that they're thinking, that may not leave them with a good feeling. But nonetheless, mothers, being able to help balance those emotions, and them embracing and knowing how to manage and having a sense of self-awareness, then social awareness, self-awareness, know what's going on with themselves, and then also social awareness. It's a challenge to move into adulting if social awareness have not been embraced, and you're knowing, how the interactions are taking place between you and another person. Also, relationship management, knowing how to manage those relationships, and knowing, if a relationship needs to be maintained, knowing if a relationship needs to be severed, or knowing if a relationship needs to be embraced. And then last but not least, knowing from self-management. We said self-awareness, but also self-management as well. Listen, all of us, even me, need to practice self-management. That's so important. It's so important. It's so important. Emotional and psychological skills. If your team has yet to embrace that, and if your team has yet to know how to manage that, are they ready for adulting? These are some things that can be talked about right now. And then my fifth, I said I'd give you 5 tips. And last but not least, what I'm calling domestic maintenance. There's so much to domestic maintenance prior to leaving the home and transitioning out. And you know what? In my Emerging Mothers Evolution program, of course, each month, this domestic maintenance is worked on and focused on everything from the cooking to the laundry to repairs to hosting, everything there are a host of things that come along with domestic maintenance, to grocery shopping, to budgeting monies and completing ledgers or apps. All of those things have to do with domestic maintenance. It's so interesting. There was one particular time in my last Masterclass, I was mentioning these items under the umbrella of domestic maintenance, and my teen daughter, who still lives in the home, I mentioned laundry, and she was shaking her head, no, I don't need to do any laundry, when there was, of course, a couple of loads that could have been tossed in the washer as I was speaking. But of course, do they want to do all of these things? They may not want to do all of these things up under the umbrella of domestic maintenance, but nonetheless, it's good for them, and it's going to help them with a life skill after the fact. So nonetheless, those are the five tips, if you will, that your team will want to know between now and the time they transition out of the home and onto the college campus, or onto the military base, or simply residential independence. So first and foremost, time management. They will want to be, oh my goodness, they will want to embrace that and really nail that down. Because last I checked, when I was on the college campus, I know some of you mothers right now may be still waking up your juniors and seniors, of course, to go to class. School is out right now, but when school was back in, last I checked, the profs on the college campus were not, of course, waiting on me to get to class, nor were they calling my cell phone to get to class. Not at all. Class happened without me there. Did they care? No. If I didn't care, then they definitely did not care whether or not they was there. And really, if I was, you know, between grades and needed that extra boost, if I wasn't there and they didn't even know my name and some of these classes are bigger, you know what? No, was I getting that higher grade? No, they weren't doing any type of curving for me or giving me any bonuses or anything along those lines if I was not in class. So again, time management is important. Tracking your budget, of course, that's important. Campus safety, your team will want to know that so they can remain safe at all times as much as possible. And then also emotional and psychological skills. They will want to know that. So you know what? You will want to share that with them. And there's some tips and gems, of course, in the program where I can just drop, listen, year long, I'm teaching them the psychological and emotional skills. And then last but not least, domestic maintenance. There are going to be some things that they're going to be doing in their dorm room. They'll want to already embrace those habits before they leave. Listen, and I'm sharing with you something I know. Did I do all of these and teach my daughter all of these? You know, I've learned a lot since they left, like a whole lot. And so I'm teaching them to you. And so please help them with this, because when they transition off, they'll already know it. They will have already embraced it, and they will already be practicing it before they hit the college campus. I am so, again, those are the tips for today. I am so excited that you all are here. Tomorrow, of course, I will be back here, same time, 6 p.m. We're going 8 more days, and I am, listen, super excited to be dropping them these gems, tossing these tips. And if you have yet to be a member of my private Facebook group, Emerging Mothers, search us please on Facebook and join. I look forward to seeing you inside, and thank you so much. I appreciate it, dropping these tips, and I will see you tomorrow, 6 p.m. right here, so that we can talk about our next discussion topic. Take care for now. Be safe. I'm praying for all of you. I love you, and until then, take care of yourself. Goodbye.